Today I'm giving you a short little knitting update on what I've been up to in the last week. So grab a cup of something and let's dive in. Welcome back, friends. If you are new here, my name is Melissa. I am the dyer behind Rising Tide Fiber Company, and I thought I'd just give you a brief little update on what kind of progress I've been making on my projects. So it's only been a week since I chatted with you, but for the past week or so, I've been feeling a little under the weather. I got a head cold, and so I didn't go out to the dye studio just because respiration was hard enough as it was, so I didn't really want to be putting on a respirator so I could avoid dye chemicals. So I got a lot of knitting time in, and as you can see, I have finished my Barnstable Shawl. If this is your first time with my channel, this was a shawl I started a couple of weeks ago, and it is a pattern that was selected by Malabrigo to revisit, and for their annual knit along, they chose this pattern to kind of introduce everyone to their new worsted weight yarn. I opted not to select the new Malabrigo yarn, and I used my own Calvert worsted. I used 2 skeins of Guilty of Sin, which is this tealy green. I think it translates on camera to more of a blue, but it is definitely teal. And then my contrasting color was Luck of Legend, which is a really pale blue that has browns, golds, purples, speckles in it. So I am incredibly pleased. I have blocked this and woven in all the ends. So I'm quite proud of myself for accomplishing that. So that is finally finished. It is, again, a worsted weight pattern, and it's all done. It is a mosaic, so this color work is mosaic. So you're only working with one color at a time. You're not having to carry multiple strands in each row, so you don't have floats. And it is completely garter stitch, so it flies off the needle, and even the mosaic begins to feel rather intuitive. So I think it's a great introduction to mosaic knitting if you've never done it before. The other project that I have put a fair amount of effort into this week is living in my Black Pearl Magic bag. It's a cute little project bag that I typically throw in my pocketbook or my backpack, and it carries socks. And last time I was working on this beautiful sock using the Frogget Yarn September colorway for their book club pick, which was Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. And I was almost to the toe. This was the custom colorway that matches the book cover. And then I did order it's not cooperating. I did order the little charm that matched the book cover, which is super adorable. If you're new around here to my channel, I do a vanilla sock cuff down. I use a 9-inch circular needle and I cast on 64 stitches. I do 2x2 ribbing for 1 inch, and then from there I do 7 inches from the top of my cuff down to where I start my heel. Then I do a slip stitch, heel flap and gusset. And then for my particular shoe size, I then do 7 1/4 stitches before I then start decreasing for my toe. So I did obviously finish this sock, and I did start its mate. So I haven't gotten a ton finished on this, but I did get the cuff, and I've started the leg. So this is on its way to almost being done. I tend to keep my sock project by me when I'm teaching. I'm an online teacher, so sometimes if I'm not actively giving lecture notes and going through problems, I will, like if I'm monitoring kids, particularly right now when my class sizes are extremely small, I will have a sock project handy. So while I'm watching them work through whatever they're working on, I can be focused and not picking up my phone or checking email, doing, random things. I can really focus on the students as they're working through their assignments and easily put it down if I have to show them something, answer a question, that sort of thing. It just kind of helps me keep my sanity. Believe me, I'd say 90% of the time I'm not picking up my sock project, but just knowing that it's there, should I want it, it's rather fantastic. The other project that I've made a ton of progress on is actually my Night Lights shawl by Andrea Mowry. This is one that technically was right here. So I hadn't done very much, and I actually decided I kind of got out of sequence. When I picked it back up, I didn't really have a good sense of where I was. So I kind of made a note about where I thought I was, and then I ripped it out and started it over. And so I have gotten this far into this shawl. This is a really long but rather narrow shawl. I want to say it's about 20 inches deep, but it's going to be about 90 inches from end to end. So it starts out really skinny. It's curling in on itself because it has I-cord edging. I am using Silver Lining as my main color, and then Petal Power as my contrasting color. This is one of the patterns that Andrea Mowry had suggested using Spin Cycle for, and I really wanted a sample on my mobile yarn truck that showed how you can utilize a pattern that calls for a long color changing yarn and use a variegated instead. And so Petal Power fit the bill because this is a beautiful pink that when it is knit up, I get lots of compliments on it. But in the skein, because the black is so harsh on that bright pink, it does come across a little harsher. And I think with the black and the purple, people really question how it's going to look. So I really wanted a piece that would really showcase how you can really get it to look great with a contrasting color. In this case, I did choose a dark gray. I think it's working up beautifully. I had put this down for a long time because it just was really repetitive. I wasn't enjoying the process. And then I picked it back up, and again, I think it was because I was sick, not because I just didn't know what I was doing, but I just wasn't feeling well. So I just ripped it all out, and I've spent the last week doing this after I finished this. The other thing that I did get accomplished this week is, if you've been around here all spring and summer, every time I finish a project, I don't weave in the ends. I don't block it. I don't weave in the ends. And I'm just like, oh, I'll do it later. And I put it in a stack. Well, guess what? That stack started filling up like a Rubbermaid container. And yes, there are a few sweaters in there that have been blocked and they just need to have their ends woven in. I have one sweater that was a cardigan that I have started from one end and knit it all the way to the other end, and it was knit flat, and I just need to seam up the sleeves and down the sides. That's it. It's a super bulky weight sweater. It's a very loose gauge. There are things like that in there, but I was off on Tuesday for Rosh Hashanah, And so I chose, as part of my day, I was like, oh, I'll just weave in these ends on these projects. Well, there were 12 pairs of socks in there, and that took hours because though a few of them were just single colors, so I only had 2 ends on each sock, most of them had contrasting heels, toes, and cuffs. So then you've got 2, 4, 6, you've got 8 more ends besides your starting point and your ending point. So there was like 9 pairs that had, 10 ends to weave in. So that took an incredible amount of time on my end. I also chose to block some things. Like I blocked my Getty tee and wove in my ends so that I could finally wear it, because we are hitting that time of the year where I could actually do that. There were a couple other like tees in there that I blocked, and I have to weave in their ends. So Tuesday was really a day of just blocking and weaving in ends. I still, of course, have a lot that I need to do. So from now on, I'm going to try to be better about weaving in my ends and blocking right away, so that I don't end up with a whole container full of things that I need to weave in the ends. I will say, getting the 12 socks out of there, a couple of them need to go out to the truck for samples. I had, I think, 3 pairs to go in my Christmas sock box. The rest went into my personal sock drawer. So now I have some fresh, clean knit socks for the new season. So yeah, not a ton of new knitting, but I feel like in a week, and again, it was probably because I had an entire weekend of being sick and just really trying to lay low, of getting a lot done. As for shop updates, September is coming to a close, so I do have a show coming up on October 25th. It is the Frederick Fiber Festival at the Frederick County Fairgrounds here in Maryland. This is a fan favorite. I love this show. It is the week after Rhinebeck, but this is an extremely family-friendly event, though it isn't, I would say, a small section of the fairgrounds. There are a ton of vendors. There are a bunch of us in yarn trucks. It is just a fantastic day. And Frederick was, years ago, the very first show I ever did. And Frederick has always been very gracious to me. And so I'm excited to see everyone at the end of October. No new colorways this week. Again, I was sick, so I wasn't really up for being out in the dye studio. Fortunately, thank you to all of you who have been ordering yarn. Everything has already been dyed. Even my Grid Goddess colorway, which has been on a dyed to order on the website, I did have back stock of stuff already dyed, so I was able to get that out right away for everybody while I was feeling under the weather. So as for what I've been watching, again, I'm still in that mode where I'm spending more time listening to audiobooks than I am with the TV actually on. But I will say that I did see where the new season of The Morning Show is out, so that will probably be what I start this weekend. I do really love that show. I'm a big fan of Reese Witherspoon and Jennifer Aniston, so I've always really enjoyed that. I'm always interested because they do kind of flirt around current events. It's a show about like a news network. So for me, I've always been really interested in seeing how they flirt around the actual news cycle that we're experiencing in real time. Now, they might be 6 months, 9 months behind us, but it is always kind of interesting to see how they kind of work around that, considering our news cycle has been pretty chaotic and dramatic. So we'll see. As for books, I have been very busy with audiobooks. I did read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez, which was the September book pick for Frogget Yarns that Tasha picks. It is women's fiction. It is romance, contemporary romance. I will say that book, Abby Jimenez always writes a book that is like hard hitting from an emotional standpoint. There are hard, she doesn't shy away from hard topics, and this one is no different, with the story of a woman's mother who has early onset dementia, and it's really kicking into high gear. So that was really hard. Just as someone who has I cared for my father-in-law when he had dementia. I was around when I was younger, when my great-grandparents kind of experienced some of that. So I think if you are in that season of life, this is a really hard book, and I probably wouldn't recommend it. But it is the story of a long-distance relationship. And it's a beautiful story, but it did make me cry in a lot of places. So, and I did bounce between, I have it in hardcover and I have it in audio form. And I spent most of it in audio form because, again, I wasn't feeling great. I was knitting. So that may have also made a difference in just from an emotional standpoint, is because I'm hearing the inflections of the characters going through what they're going through. And then I just started a new advanced readers copy called Season of the Witch. I'm really enjoying this book. It takes place at Christmas time, but it's about witches from rival families who have merged their company together. And I'm really finding it quite funny, actually, just really quite funny. So I suspect that I will finish that in the next week or so. And then I'll be moving on to another anticipated advanced readers copy that I have. And then I'm not sure where I'm headed with audio. I usually get through a couple of audiobooks a week, but I haven't really checked to see what's come in through my library. I've maxed out my Hoopla for the month, so I have to wait till October 1st for that to reset. I do, of course, have a few Audible books from before I canceled my Audible subscription, so I have a few of those I could get to. So I have plenty to listen to. It's just a matter of what am I in the mood to read. And so that's my quick little update on what I've been knitting. So if you've made it this far, go ahead and give me a pumpkin emoji. I'm so excited for October to get here. I really want the cooler, crisper weather. I'd love to know, what are you knitting? What are you looking forward to now that we're headed into those final few months of the year when things really get a little cozy? So until next time, friends, happy knitting.